Hi everyone, it's Donnie Lowy from Closeoutexplosion.com. Hope you're having a great day today. So I would like to discuss with you how to buy new clothing in bulk. There are many reasons why people want to buy new clothing in bulk. They want to buy it either for resale or they want to buy it for their own personal use. Now, as a wholesaler, I'm going to focus on buying new clothing in bulk for resale purposes, but many of these sources would allow you, or you would even enable you, to buy new clothing in bulk for your personal use. So one of the ways to buy new clothing in bulk is by going to auctions. There are many different types of auctions. An auction is basically the format where you show up, the auctioneer puts up different lots for bid. There could be a reserve, meaning that the auctioneer will only accept the winning bid that went past a certain amount, or there's no reserve and it might not even have a minimum bid. So you can bid literally $1, and if no one else bids against you, you will get that entire lot of bulk clothing. Now, there are different types of auctions. You can have auctions that are for stores that are going out of business. You can have auctions that are run on behalf of wholesalers that are looking to liquidate their merchandise. Let's say a wholesaler, in the course of running his or her business, has accumulated 1,000 dresses, and now that wholesaler wants to get new inventory in, wants to clear out those dresses, so he will or she will contact an auctioneer, and the auctioneer will auction off those wholesale dresses in bulk. Bidders will come to the auction. They will have the opportunity to bid on those lots, and in this case those lots of dresses, and many times auctioneers will also offer online bidding so that bidders don't have to come in person, and of course it benefits the owner of the merchandise and the auctioneer because they will attract more bidders to their auction. One thing you have to be aware when you go to the auctions is that very often, and I want to say almost all the time, but I'm sure there are exceptions, there's going to be a buyer's premium. A buyer's premium means that whatever you pay your final bid, right, whatever you pay for that lot, there's going to be a certain percentage added on. So if the buyer's premium is 10% and your final bid was $500, you're actually going to have to pay the auctioneer $550, and then you're going to get the lot. Another thing to keep in mind, even though you might not think it affects you as a bidder, but it really does, is that the seller, meaning the owner of the merchandise, is going to be charged a seller's premium. What that really means is that the seller is going to have to pay a commission to the auctioneer from the proceeds of the sale. So let's say that lot of $500, right, that lot that you want for $500, let's say the seller's premium was 10%. That means that the owner of those dresses is going to have to pay from that $500. They're going to have to give $50 of that to the auctioneer. So the auctioneer has two ways of making money, either by charging the buyer and the seller, or they could do either or. Now, here's the thing. Keep in mind that if you go to an auction and you know that the owner of the merchandise is going to have to pay a commission on it, then the owner of the merchandise might not let the merchandise go for such a low price. So you want to try to go to auctions, if you can, where the seller is not charged a commission on their merchandise, and if they are, then have in mind that there might be a reserve, and even if it's not an explicit reserve, but the auctioneer is going to try very hard to get the auction to go to a certain amount. Otherwise, the owner of the merchandise is not going to be happy because they're going to be selling all of their merchandise, and they're not going to get that much after the commission they have to pay. And another thing to keep in mind, that the auctioneer does want to push up the prices for the lots, and you have to be very aware of that because his profit or her profit is based on the total value, the total bids for the merchandise. So if the total bids came in, the winning bids were $5,000, and they're getting a 10% commission from the buyer and 10% commission of the seller, and the total, I believe, was $5,000, then they're going to be making $1,000, 10% from the buyers, 10% from the sellers. Did I get that right? From 5,000? Yes, 500 and 500, they'll make $1,000. So, but still, so going to auctions is definitely a good way to buy new clothing in bulk. Another way to buy new clothing in bulk is by contacting wholesalers directly, finding out what merchandise have available, what merchandise you're having a challenging time selling, and then offer to buy that merchandise from them in bulk. The wholesaler definitely benefits, because I can tell you from my own experience, if I could move out a lot of merchandise that is moving slowly, if I can move it out in one shot, even if I get a lower price than I initially wanted to get or that I was planning on getting, but I'm able to move out that inventory in one shot, then I'm going to be happy to do it. The flip side is that when you make your offer, the offer has to be realistic, because if the offer is too low, then the wholesaler is going to realize that he's just better off waiting to sell the merchandise at a higher price, even though it might take him longer to sell it. Now, another way to buy clothing in bulk, which you might, hopefully, you might have considered, you might not have considered, but I think it's definitely worth exploring, is going to garage sales. Now, I know that most of the clothing you're going to find at garage sales is used, so make sure that you have a market to sell used clothing, right? If you don't have a market to sell used clothing, it doesn't make sense to buy anything that's used. But having said that, you might want to explore, you might want to take a chance, and then research. And I mean, as long as you've done your research ahead of time and you feel that you have potential customers, then it might make sense to buy the clothing in bulk. So you go to a garage sale, see all of the clothing that they have available, and make the owner of the garage sale an offer to buy all of the clothing in one shot. Of course, you're going to offer substantially less than the owner was trying to sell the clothing by the piece, but the advantage to the owner of the clothing is that he's guaranteed to sell everything, because you're going to buy all of the clothing in one shot, and it might be worthwhile for him to have a guaranteed sale than to wait and hopefully throughout the day sell it piece by piece, because he might not get enough customers. The customers might come and not be interested in the clothing, or it could start raining later, or people simply, for another reason, maybe there's a very popular sports event on the TV, or people went out to another occasion and they just don't come to his garage sale. So there's definitely an incentive for the owner of a garage sale to sell you his clothing in bulk. Now, what's another way to buy clothing in bulk? You could go to going out of business sales. If you see a store in your neighborhood that is closing, you can approach the store owner and make an offer to buy all of that clothing in bulk. The store owner benefits by selling all of his clothing in one shot instead of waiting to try to sell it piecemeal to customers or to wholesalers who might pick and choose different items. And instead, the store owner will have the opportunity to sell all of his clothing in one shot. Now, whenever you buy clothing in bulk for resale purposes, you want to be careful to make sure that you're buying clothing that you're going to be able to resell. And even if you're really confident that you're going to sell everything, still give yourself an allowance. I mean, give yourself room for error. Your margin of error is going to be up to you. I personally, from my experience, and this is just my experience, and you have to, do your own research and see what your own experience is. In my research, I would say about 10 to 20% of the clothing that I'm buying in bulk, for one reason or another, it doesn't sell. Maybe it's a certain size, maybe it's a style, maybe it's a color, or I just only have that many customers. So let's say I have an amazingly good item that I got in bulk. Let's say I got brand name handbags, and I bought 1,000 brand name handbags, and they're really beautiful handbags. They're great brands, and everyone's looking for these wholesale handbags. I might not still be able to sell all the handbags, because I might discover that one of the handbags is in a color that people aren't that excited about. One of the handbags might have a style that is not popular anymore, or people might love the style, but that's not the brand that they want. They might love the brand, but not the style, and so on. So always give yourself margin to do your, do your calculations. So whatever your wholesale price is for that bulk clothing, actually add a certain percentage to your cost for the merchandise that you expect or that you realistically might not be able to sell. So to summarize, let's say you bought 100 blouses and you paid for those blouses $5 each. You're really excited about selling them. You have a lot of customers who are asking you for blouses, but you want to play it safe, so you're going to assume that you're not going to sell 10% of those blouses. And you paid $5 for those blouses, so your actually cost now is going to be, $5.50 each, because what you're going to say to yourself is that you're not going to sell 10% of the blouses, so the other blouses that you have now are going to have to cover the cost of the 10 blouses that you're not going to be able to sell. Here's the best part about doing this. Let's say it actually works out really well, and you sell all of the blouses. Then those last 10 blouses that you sold, if you truly put your cost for those 10 blouses on the other blouses, and you increase your price for the other 90 blouses because you assumed that you're not going to sell the last 10 blouses, and you successfully sold the 90 blouses at a higher price because you anticipated not selling the last 10 blouses. So guess what? When you actually sell those final 10 blouses, it's all profit, right? Because let's see the example. You bought the blouses in bulk at $5 each. you said to yourself, no, my cost is actually $5.50 per blouse. Why? Because I'm not going to be able to sell the last 10%, the last 10 blouses. So now your cost is $5.50 per each wholesale blouse. You originally were planning to sell those blouses for $10, but now you decided to sell those blouses at 10% more to cover the loss of the expected profit that you wanted to originally make on the last 10 blouses. Instead of selling the blouses, the 90 blouses for $10 each, now you're going to sell those 90 blouses at $11 each because you want to make 10% more. And now you sell all 90 blouses at $11 each. Now guess what? You actually sell those last 10 blouses also for $11 each. So did you realize what happened? You just made an extra $1 on each blouse, and those last 10 blouses that you sold at $11 each, that $110 is pure profit because you already attributed your cost to the other blouses. So what other tips can I give you when you buy clothing in bulk? Well, another thing which is an interesting thing is to go on eBay and look for bulk lots of clothing. People sell bulk lots for many reasons. They'll sell used clothing if, let's say, their kids don't need their clothing anymore. They themselves are not using that clothing. It could be used, it could be slightly used, meaning that the condition might not look that bad, or sometimes the condition might not look that great. So you have to look at the pictures carefully. Or people might have brand new clothing and they're looking to sell it. Maybe they had a business and they've closed the business. Maybe they were going to start a business and they bought clothing in bulk, and then they decided not to start their new business. They decided not to open up a new boutique, and now they want to sell that clothing in bulk. So you should definitely check on eBay to see what lots are available. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. The next time you are in New York, you are welcome to visit my warehouse. My warehouse is located in Greenpoint. I'm actually relatively close to New York Fashion District, New York Garment District, however you might call it. I'm about, by subway, I would say about 25 minutes away. By taxi, maybe also 25, 30 minutes away. And I'd be very happy to meet you. My website is closeoutexplosion.com. Thank you and have a great day.